George Kilpatrick, inspiration for the nation, celebrating people we feel good about. Got a good friend on the program, Joanie Mahoney, formerly the Onondaga County Executive, now just announced this week the president and CEO of SUNY ESF, the University of New York College of Environmental Science and Forestry.
That's a mouthful,
Congratulations,
George.
Joanie.
Thank you. That was a lot of letters, but you got it. Yep, I'm so excited. I started yesterday in my new role as president, and I feel like the luckiest person ever.
So prior to that, you were the chief operating officer. So you
Yep.
you know you had a bird's eye view. It's not like it was out of your league. You were in the chair. You were close to it.
Yeah, and that was by design. I was still county executive when the previous president announced he was stepping down, and I made my interest known. And, long story short, this role as chief operating officer became available, and I thought it was a perfect way to come in and, really get my bearings. And I knew that I was passionate about the mission here at ESF. I knew a lot about ESF because of my role. We had worked together. But until you're boots on the ground and the buildings and the faculty names and the kind of research they're doing, and you get to meet the students, the 2 years flew by. And then I went through a really long search process and you couldn't have wiped the smile off my face when I got the offer to be the president up here.
That's nice. So you actually went through. So did they post, and when you interviewing with other people, or
Oh my gosh, George, I have never been through a process like I was. They hired an outside search firm, and that firm worked with the search committee here on campus, and they solicited resumes, and it was a confidential search, so I don't know who all my competition was, but I know that they had a lot of interest because I knew that like the first round, there were like 30 people, then they decided to interview 15, and then they went down to 6. And they had each of us interview with the student group, the faculty, we call it academic governance here at ESF, the leadership team. I interviewed, I think, 8 or 9 times on campus, and then was selected as in the top 3. And the local campus sends 3 names up to SUNY in Albany. And then I had to go through a whole round of interviews there with the chancellor and his team and the SUNY board of trustees. So they looked under every rock, and there I was. And I was just, it was an incredible process. And I don't know that I would wish it on anyone, except that it's so satisfying at the end, because I know that I come with the support of the campus and with the SUNY administration.
well, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I want to go into put your other hat on, your political hat, because at the time of our conversation, the outcome of the presidency is still uncertain. And even when we air this interview, it may or may not be decided by that time, because even if it is decided, it still will be hung up because you got to have to certify the election, and then the electors have to vote. So there's a process, but
Yep.
it either will happen at the time of our conversation or it will not have happened. But what do you make of what we are experiencing politically right now?
Um, I'm just probably like a lot of people, I'm tired of the chaos, and it's just every single day is something else. And without even affixing blame, it's a matter of fact that this has been so chaotic and just so much fighting and so much division. And, um, watching cities in the United States board up their windows in anticipation of our election. How did we get to there? That's the kind of thing we've seen on the evening news for, since I've been a kid. There's some country that's going through this turmoil, and you just don't believe it could ever happen in the United States. And here we are. There's windows boarded up, and there's National Guard's been called, and I'm tired of it.
Yeah, and I think what we've seen, I mean, and we don't know what's going to happen, but you've got people storming. They stop the count in some places and keep counting in other places. I mean, it's really Do you think that whatever the outcome is, and I'm hoping for the president who's currently in office to be removed, no secret there.
Mhm.
So, do you think if if Biden should prevail at the time of our conversation again, he may or may not have already. What will the challenge be for him? Because the current president has clearly indicated that he is not interested in being the president of all of the people of the United States, by my perception. So, will Joe Biden be able to quote build that consensus? And why should he? Or should he just do the same thing?
Well, Biden's message in the last week or so of the campaign was very consistently, I want to be president of the United States, not the blue states, not the red states, but the United States. And it was such a wonderful thing to hear. And it used to be trite, because everybody said it, but we've gone 4 years with decisions being made based on blue and red. Like, look at New York State.
Right.
It has cost New York State millions of dollars in real dollars in expense for COVID, but also in foregone revenue. And, it trickles down. Ryan McMahon's budget is $58 million short. Ben Walsh is, furloughing city employees. These are your neighbors. These are the people that plow your streets and, mow the lawn in your park, and they're without work and without a paycheck. And then you hear the leader of the country saying, well, that's led, by a Democrat, so we're not going to give him any money. And I just was very happy to hear Joe Biden say, I don't want to be the president of the red states and the blue states. But I'll tell you too, one of the reasons that I think people should just take a deep breath is the president really used it against Biden, how long he's been around. You've been here for 40 or 50 years and you've had all this opportunity to do this. But the truth is, we know Joe Biden.
Right.
And as much as they tried to paint him as some radical that was going to completely change the United States, everybody's like, it's Joe Biden. Like, you've known him your whole life. So, I think that once, if Biden is successful, and it looks like he's going to be, once he's in place, he has a tremendous amount of respect from the members of the Senate that were his colleagues, including people like Lindsey Graham. I mean, you have Lindsey Graham on video talking about what a wonderful person Joe Biden is. I think that we'll see a little bit more sort of calm down collaboration. You don't always have to be on the red team or the blue team. You can call them as you see them, like we used to do. So, I'm hopeful. I really am genuinely hopeful. And like you, I have kids and they're, really scared about what they see happening. And I want them to know that I really do feel like we can get this back on track.
One more thing before your job interview or your actual job now. What about the racial pandemic in this country, and what steps a Biden administration, or is it not that deep, or is it more localized? How do we deal with the perceptions of and the realities of race in this community and in this country?
Well, I had an interesting conversation yesterday with somebody who shared a perspective that is, I'll be interested in your reaction too. So this was an African-American man who said, I don't hate Donald Trump and I don't blame Donald Trump. And I'm grateful for Donald Trump because he exposed the racism that was here. He's not a powerful enough person to make half the country turn into racist. And there was a certain amount of power that people had when they were kind of living under their rocks. But now that we have this wide open people marching in the streets, you have outraged young people especially, and it's not going to be okay with people. When you saw what was happening after the George Floyd murder, you saw the people marching in the streets. There were a lot of white faces.
Absolutely.
And there were a lot of young people that came together. And so the perspective of this man was, this is hard and painful, but this is how change happens. Or we could do what we were doing and just sort of have it beneath the surface. You don't really know where your enemies are because everything is, kind of buried, and it's all exposed right now. And I mean, the pictures, think back to Charlottesville with the
Tiki
torches.
torches, yeah.
Yeah, but my you and I've talked about this in the past. I think the solution is equity, fairness. You know, if you level the playing field, then that's all you got to do. Like,
I would add to that perspective of what your friend said, which is that Donald Trump encouraged also this
yeah,
pandemic of race, and so I would add that. So I'm not thankful for that, but I'm saying that he encourages that and encouraged that, and I think that also is an explosion. I think the other piece of it that I saw this somewhere as well is that it's not new as you suggest. This is who we have always been. It's just not out in the open. So in some ways I agree and disagree. Not disagree, but I add that
yeah,
Donald Trump
yeah.
is also exposed it. So
Before you switch gears, can I tell
yeah.
you one thing? Because I can relate exactly. When I was county executive, well, when I ran in my first race on election night in that primary, I was up 100 some votes.
Right.
They demanded a recount, and then I was up like, I don't know, 60, 70 votes, something like that. And then they recounted a second time, and I was only up by 21 votes. And I was like, stop counting. Everyone stop counting. So when I heard you say stop counting, I was laughing because I thought, I wanted people to stop counting, but that's not how it works.
Right.
I mean, if the only way you can win is by not counting the votes, then you didn't win. You know,
right.
You got to count the votes. I had to count the votes. It got very close for comfort. I've lost races before, but it's just, you know, so I just wanted you to know when you said that about stop counting that I can relate and I know the sentiment, but Mr. President, that's not how we do things.
Well, no, stop counting over there and then keep counting over here.
I know. I only want you to count in the ones I'm behind in, but if I'm ahead, then
stop
I want
counting.
Counting. Yeah.
And again, we can make light of that, but you know, it's a very serious issue because that's our democracy is dependent on people playing by the rules, so to speak. So
I've been encouraged though. Some of the governors that are Republicans that are saying, no, we count everybody's vote.
Yes.
I've been
every legal vote. Yeah. And that's what, and in the midst of all of this, and this is what I've been saying to people too, Joanie, I have hope because as you talk about the young people and their commitment and how we are seeing their energy and their ability to say no, wrong is wrong, no matter where it is.
Exactly.
That's what we
exactly.
So in some ways we've done something right. Okay, let's talk about your actual job.
Okay.
With the minutes we have, because I know we don't have a lot of time, but let's just do that. Your actual, we'll have to have you back and talk more. But you're here right now, and this is what's happening right now, and I think you appreciate us having this conversation. So as the new president, CEO of SUNY ESF, you know, you've got some new dorms, you've got new opportunities. What's the, give us a bird's eye view of what SUNY ESF is, what you see it looking like going forward. I'm sure you answered this question already in your interview. So what does it look like for you going forward, especially with community partnerships? You're not just an extension of Syracuse University, you never have been, but how does SUNY ESF maintain and create its own identity within the space in this community?
There's a few different perspectives. One is from this community, as you just ended. This is a very important institution in this community. And so everybody should be pulling for ESF to be big and strong and healthy because we're an important employer and neighbors, you know, so from the community, we're an important institution. SUNY is also. From Syracuse University's standpoint, Chancellor Syverud will be one of the first to tell you that having this world-class environmental science college right next door to a place that his students have access to is a big benefit to Syracuse University. But for me, it's all about what's happening here on our campus. Mm-hmm. And I have been blown away, especially by two things. One is the caliber of the students that are attracted here. It is a very rigorous academic program. We're all STEM. There's no fudging. You know, we are heavy in math, heavy in science, labs, field work, and you have to have had a rigorous high school transcript with good grades to get here. And as a result, we have these very mature, serious students who think they're going to save the world, and they probably are. And then on the other hand, we have faculty doing research that's very real in our lives. Like, We have these harmful algal blooms in Skinny Atlas Lake, which is the drinking water for the city of Syracuse. We have scientists here that are monitoring, studying, finding solutions for that. We have, national experts in things like Lyme disease because of the tick-borne illnesses. So it's environmental science. It's critical in 2020. We have some of the best researchers at work here in Syracuse, New York. And even as county executive, I didn't fully appreciate how great ESF is. So I see my role from COO to now president is to become more external facing, take advantage of opportunities to talk to folks like you and to say, we are doing the work that's going to solve these most pressing climate issues.
Yeah.
And we're doing it with some really great people.
As you were talking, I was thinking about climate change and the issue of fracking and having real data and science, because science has been under attack the last few years.
I know, and it's been interesting to be here at ESF and watching, science doesn't know. I'm like, wow, science does know. And you can see for yourself, if you come up and look at some of the work that's being done, there's new technologies that are so much more environmentally friendly that are being born here. And those kinds of technologies taken to scale are going to reduce the footprint that we have and the damage really that we can do to the environment. So again, it's something that gives me a lot of hope, but we need some partnerships to be really strong going forward because we're a small school and our relationship with Syracuse University is very important to us.
Yeah, you're pretty good at those partnerships, so I can't wait to see what happens.
Thank you.
You're pretty good at that. How has COVID affected your on-campus learning experience?
And I will say, I know your viewers probably know, and I had the opportunity to talk to you before we came on the air, that I know how personally you've been affected with your mom, and I'm sorry.
Thank you.
For us, the way it manifests itself is it's a very quiet campus. We held most of our enrollment. We didn't lose a lot of students who decided that they were going to take a gap year. I know that that's pretty prevalent in the country, but they're not physically here. Our dorm is about 70% full, and the students aren't able to sit together to eat their lunch, and they're not coming together in classrooms. Most of our classes are either online or some kind of hybrid, but as I said, we're a STEM college, so they do have to come together for labs and things. But the most telling thing is if you come to ESF, the bike racks are jammed, and this semester they're just not. There's students that are at home or in an apartment and they're doing their coursework online for the most part. I don't know what normal is going to look like when we're done here, but this pandemic has shown us that there's another way to deliver education.
When you, I guess this will be the last question. What do you hope to see? I mean, you talked about partnerships. You talked about the community better understanding this gem of a research institute right within our community. How do you raise the profile for even students in the community, making these opportunities for more diverse students so that they know that this is an opportunity as well to even think about environmental science as a possible career opportunity? How do you do all of those things?
Well, that's a commitment that I made. And as I was going through the rigorous application and search process, it was happening at the time that we had all of the conversation about race, and it brought to the forefront, the STEM field does not have representation the way it should. And, there's a million what I call valid excuses that people will give you, and that's all fine and well and good. But if you want to make it better, you have to put work into it. And I committed in my search interviews with the SUNY Board of Trustees that I will visit STEM schools in the cities in New York State and let people there know that ESF is here. It's one of the best in the country, and that we want you to come here. And you're from the New York City area. There's some really great STEM high schools in the New York City area, and we should be among their top choices.
Well, Joanie Mahoney, I'm sure we'll be back to talk about
I hope
many
so.
more things.
I hope so.
And first, and once again, congratulations, Joanie Mahoney, former Onondaga County executive, now the president and CEO of SUNY ESF, the State University of New York College of Environmental Science and Forestry. Just wanted to give you that big shout
Thank
out,
you.
and that we're rooting for you. And if
Thank
there's
you.
anything we could do to help to
I will
spread the
definitely
word,
let you know.
holla at your boy.
Thank you, George. Thank you so much. It was nice to see you again. I'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon. Take care now.